Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of It Ain't Weak to Speak. My name is Sam Webb, and this show is dedicated to ending the stigma around mental health through community, connection, and the hard-hitting truth. I'll be speaking with guests from all over the world about life to inspire and to educate people to speak up so that we can save more lives. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Welcome, Richard Kerrigan. Mate, how are you? Talk to me. What's been happening?
Mate, I'm all good over here in Australia. I've just been doing a couple of training sessions on the beach this morning. No better way to start the day. Yeah, feeling good, mate. Had a nice breakfast smoothie and a coffee, so I'm caffeined up and ready to rip in, mate.
You'd still be as fit as a fiddle since the last time I saw you doing hill repeats in Bondi.
Yeah, we had a good session. Yeah, I've done a few bits. I try to, obviously I work as a personal trainer and nutrition coach, so I try and practice what I preach, and health and fitness is very important to me. And mate, I love ripping in, and my kind of thing is keeping it quite short but super intense. And just to get the session in is just a bit of an accomplishment. So yeah, we gave it a good nudge last time in Bondi, eh?
We did, mate. We did. It's always a good time catching up with you, although we don't catch up nearly as enough as we should. But that's okay, because when we do catch up, it's always a good time.
Mate, 100%. I like it. You know when you've got a good mate that you haven't seen him for a while, and then as soon as you catch up 2 minutes in, it's just super easy. So I think it's a testament to you, mate. It's good.
Yeah, and I also want to touch on as well, Richie, thanks for obviously all of the help and the support that you've given Livin since you've obviously been in Australia, since you've heard about Livin and the work that we've done. We're always grateful with the support that we get from all walks of life, obviously, and you've helped us out on a number of fronts. So I want to say thank you, and I appreciate all of your help and support and your knowledge as well from the health and fitness and food side, diet side of things.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure, and I really mean this when I say it. So I think when we first chatted on when we did an episode together. The reason what stood out when I first met you was literally, and again, this is the power of social media. I saw this guy holding up a white piece of paper with all these messages, and you don't think too much of it. You just think at the time, it might just be another motivational message. But then you start to see them more and more, and you start to look into them, and you start to understand, this isn't just a guy holding up. There's actually some meaning behind this. And then I reached out to you, and then realized, what you were doing and the story behind it. And we'll talk on it later, but it really kind of touched me and affected me, and anything I can do. My goal at the start of 2020 was all about giving back and making myself feel better through giving back. So mate, 100% happy to help. And I think what you and your mate have done with the Livin brand to now has been inspiring, man. It's been really, really good to see it kind of grow. And if I can help in any way, shape or form, then bring it on.
Well, mate, yeah, and thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you reaching out to us. And I guess if that step you didn't take, maybe we wouldn't be speaking today. But it's been a short journey knowing you, but it's been something it's been inspiring. I've actually learned a lot from you in such a short amount of time, especially when it comes to, I guess, the way that you treat your body, not the way in terms of training all the time, but it's about what you're putting in your body. And I think that's something that, very clearly, it's been a passion of yours ever since you in your early teens. And I'd love to pick your brain a little bit more about that, share with our audience how the power of food and I guess what you're putting in your body and that direct relationship is with your overall health and well-being.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's no secret that everyone knows that healthy food is obviously very good for you, and what you put into your body is important if you want to get a good kind of output. But the difficulty I find with a lot of people is actually knowing how to do that when you are busy, when you are stuck for time, when you might not be able to afford the nicer kind of foods and that sort of thing. So my background is actually as a chef. I'm a qualified chef, and I actually went into the industry at I think I started at 13 scrubbing pots, as most people do, in a little dingy pub restaurant and then peeling potatoes, and then getting a bit of an interest. And then from there, I went to college in catering college, and got my qualification in that, and then went to work in some nice restaurants. And it wasn't until I realized how crazy the hours were, and my health started to suffer at like 21 years old. I remember going to a doctor, and I had all these like blisters all over my hands. They're like tiny little kind of watery blisters. And I thought it was like I was allergic to shellfish or seafood or something like that. And he said to me, what do you do for a job? And I told him I was a chef. And he said, I think it's stress related. And at 21 to be that stressed, from something that I didn't have a care in the world at that age, I was living at home. I had, I wasn't getting paid a fortune, but there was no worries. And it was just purely from the day in, day out, 16, 17-hour shifts that you're doing. It's very difficult to stay focused. And I was like, right, how do I change this into something that I love? And health and fitness was always something I loved doing. I love training on my time off from working in the kitchens. And I thought, how can I shape this together? And that's where I thought, bringing the two things together, food, but also training. And now the weird thing is, food is by far the most important thing I focus on when I'm training clients,
Really?
That it doesn't matter what goal you have, mate, 100%, getting their food right, actually teaching them to cook, almost over getting them to lift weights is I think as important, if not more important, because, you can lose weight and not even step foot in the gym or pick up a dumbbell. What you put in your mouth hour after hour, day after day is going to have a huge influence on how your body shape changes. Training is that kind of, when you look at a pyramid, it'd be right up there towards the kind of middle, if not the top part.
So they say that 80-20 rule, right? Your food and diet is 80% of the overall, I guess, training regime, and 20% comes down to exercise and movement. Is that what you're saying? Would that be accurate? Or
I actually think nowadays, and the more research and the more courses you go on, and the more you kind of like develop as a coach, you understand that people used to say, some people say 70-30, some people say 80-20. I actually think you could split into three parts. And I think a mindset part of that is actually a big chunk of the pyramid. If you're talking about a pyramid down here and you've got your food up to here, you've got your training, but then you've got a big chunk of it that actually is the mental side of it. And just putting my coaching hat on for a minute, mate, and talking you through some stuff, if you got to think of this, right? You've gone from, say you've got an overweight person and they're looking to shed 10, 15 kilos. They haven't gained those 10, 15 kilos overnight. So they're not going to lose it overnight. And in order for you to flip where they want to get to, you have to first look at their headspace, right? What's emotionally working or what's not working in order for them to be able to go to the gym and train, and then, eat the healthy choices, or eat less of the, because some people eat a lot of healthy food, but they just simply eat too much, talking about that calorie balance. So I think it's really important to find out the mindset side first, and then we can start talking about the food, and then we can start talking about the training, rather than, I think a lot of people jump straight into the, how can I smash my body, and how can I get up a sweat, and how can I burn these calories off, without understanding what your body's doing first, and what the emotional side is first, and then we can look at the physical changes.
So where do you start with that? And for me, it makes sense because I've been around this conversation for a number of years, and I've had I've had the luck, and I'm very fortunate enough to have been surrounded by people who are experts in various areas when it comes to health and fitness. So for me, it's a lot easier for me to understand that it's about your mentality, and then what you put in your body, then it's your training. Someone that doesn't know that, and someone who might be listening right now that wants to head to the gym and they want to lose a bunch of weight, for whatever reason that may be. What's your advice to them then, if they don't have that education like I do and you do?
So first of all, I mean, everyone knows, education is power, and that shapes that side. But I think the first thing you need to do is you just need to seriously start off slow. And it sounds like a cliche that people say it, but not enough people do it. I was always told to write things down, because it's a lot clearer when you write things down, and you set these goals out. But also actually finding someone else that is in either the same boat that you're close to, that you can kind of lean on for that support. But just starting slow, doing something. I think we get hell bent on this thing, particularly with social media. We look at all these crazy, inspiring Instagram pictures, and I'm probably guilty of some of it. when you're looking at, someone training hard, and obviously it's because I want to push my body and show people where you can get to. And hopefully it comes across as a bit of inspiration to get you out there and get amongst it. But I know that sometimes it can be, it can work against you. You're looking at some of these videos that might be way too far ahead of you. So you just need to take it a step back a bit and go, do you know what do I love doing? If you love playing tennis, go and play tennis. You've got to build these healthy habits in first, check in with yourself and find out, right, okay, what is my mindset? Do I focus better in a group situation? If so, go and do some circuit training with a group of people. Am I better on my own? If I'm really good on my own and I'm really interested in, say, podcasts, set yourself a target in the morning and say, right, I'm going to listen to a podcast 4 times a week. And I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk whilst I do that. It's amazing how much people want quick results, and I understand that, but it's amazing how mental resilient you are after 4 or 5 weeks of doing the same thing, creating that habit. Because that whole habit of like 21 days, it takes a lot longer than 21 days to build that habit and sustain it. And that's the most important thing. We're looking for that quick fix, and we're looking for things to happen, yesterday. Whereas no one's willing to put in a bit of time, and the effort that you put in on the time, mate, you'll be the balance for me is like, and the best part of when you're happy is when you can maintain. When you've smashed your goal, you've understood through mental resilience, through the transition period of, say, it takes you 3.5 months to lose some weight. Those 3.5 months, you've learned so much about yourself. You've been through some shit places, you've been through some amazing places. That's all going to shape where you are for the next 3.5 months. And the change that you'll discover after that, mate, it's ridiculous. It's almost kind of, euphoric. And if you can just get into people's heads that start small, build small steps over time, little change, and you'll absolutely win every time.
Yeah, right. And but for me, and being a bit of a devil's advocate, it does sound a lot easier than said than done, right?
Yeah,
and it takes a lot of willpower to be able to get up
100%.
every day and stick to a program of eating right, sleeping right, thinking right, and training right, as well as having to deal with your everyday stresses of life and what life throws at you. So, I mean, for people that, might be struggling to train or to get out of bed of a morning, or that find that extra bit of motivation to wake up and get to the gym, or to maybe eat 2 or 3 times a week, healthy options rather than being a little bit slack, that could be the difference between someone that's got a really good, strong willpower, that has a pretty good lifestyle in terms of, their program, so to speak, and they're not pulled every which way possible, versus someone that sort of is just all over the shop. So how could someone that sort of doesn't have their shit together, so to speak, because I don't think any of us have our stuff together perfectly, how can someone in that area, what are a couple of quick tips for them to sort of go and work at? Because I understand it's not what I'm trying to say is, I understand that it's not an overnight success.
Not at all. No.
Okay. This is a long-term approach. And unfortunately, we live in a place where people are becoming more and more impatient. We want results yesterday, right?
Yeah.
But what are some quick tips we can give people who are very impatient? Because I think the majority of society is very impatient right now. What are some quick tips that we could give someone that can go and implement them to make a change? Is there any such thing as a quick tip?
I mean, yeah, there's ways that you can make it easier for yourself on time. The number one, I think is just look at things like, first of all, look at your food. Pick apart, and this is why I talk about writing stuff down, pick apart what you're eating as a whole. Because I always say to people I'm working with, if they want to come to me and they say, right, I want to lose weight, I'm like, okay, why haven't you been able to in the past? You know your body way better than me. I've met you 10 minutes into the initial chat. I'm not going to say to you, right, you need to do this, you need to do that, because I don't know anything about your lifestyle. So you understand your lifestyle way better than anyone else. And 90% of the time, you know exactly what you're not doing right, or you're doing too much of. So you need to have a look at it and think, right, simple tips, Sammy. Like, could I eat more vegetables? 100%. Could I drink more water? Yes. Could I get to bed an extra hour and a half, if not 2 hours earlier? I guarantee you 90% of the population could do it. It's just prioritizing. And I think that's what it all comes down to is prioritizing. I guarantee if you go into a meeting and your boss says to you, I need this presentation on my desk by 9 a.m. Monday morning, you'll get it done. You have to treat your health like that, because the problem with a lot of people is they only get scared when, you have a health scare, or you have an injury and then you can't train. You know, we've got to start taking our health as a number one priority, physically as well as mentally. So I think looking at those quick tips, like I say, drinking more water, sleeping, and it goes back to what you enjoy doing, because if you don't like going to the gym, don't go to the gym. You know, it really is that simple. Buddy up with someone that you spend a lot of time with. And also, one of my biggest things, mate, is actually sharing your goals amongst your community. For me, when I did the New York Marathon just recently, I made sure that everyone knew about it, and it wasn't an ego boost from my side. But the more people you tell, you're then accountable to those people, and you're like, right, I've now got to do this. You know, I've put
I've told so many people.
Because and what you'll find is the encouragement that you get back from those people is so uplifting and empowering. It's ridiculous. So you've got this kind of free energy that you're getting off people. You haven't had to ask for it. And then people, what you tend to find is you tend to find that you don't have to be a fitness person or someone in the health and fitness industry to inspire someone. You know, just by doing a challenge like that, someone can go, do you know what? Fuck, if he can run a marathon, I can get my running shoes and go and do that. Definitely. And then you become, you know, that better off because you've moved your body. So it just comes in this, you know, this wave of inspiration, I suppose, from you don't realize how powerful your actions are. And I think that comes back to just keeping it so simple. You know?
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people too, I mean, inspiring and helping, and I want to reiterate this and be very clear on it. You don't have to be, like you said, Richie, you don't have to be a professional. You don't have to be a chef. You don't have to be a certified expert in personal training. You don't have to be a doctor or a psychologist by any means to be able to help yourself. A lot of these tools and strategies that you've just mentioned, we could probably find a lot of them online, couldn't we?
Mate, 100%, 100%. I think it's just when people emotionally connect with a person, face to face, and that's again the benefit of, you know, social media can be very good and it can be very, very bad. But, you know, following someone that you really look up to and use them as a bit of an inspiration is massive. And obviously I try and do that a lot with my work, but trying to give that message that it isn't going to happen overnight, but also it doesn't have to be difficult. And I think there's so much crap out there at the moment that just confuses people. You know, you talk about these people that want to lose a bit of weight, they want to or whatever their goal is, but they don't know how to do it. You know, nothing's ever changed in terms of weight loss. Like if you basically burn more calories than you're eating, you're going to start to lose weight. It is that simple. But unfortunately with marketing, people have tried to push things that just don't, it either takes you twice as long to get there, or it's just not, it doesn't make any sense, you know, and it's just all about the cash flow and how they can kind of make a quick buck off someone that's already struggling. And to me, mate, there's nothing more like, you know, you're robbing people blind. Like it's ridiculous. This stuff works time and time again. Looking after your nutrition, moving your body more, getting enough sleep and drinking enough water. And that is it.
Yeah. And it's very powerful, and it's so true what you said. I mean, I wish more people would understand that, you know, the first thing I hear a lot of the time is if someone's struggling or if someone's having a bad day, or they want to, they you know, they might want to lose weight, or they want to do something to their body. They might want to see a change in it. The first thing that comes to most people's mind is, well, why don't you exercise, or why don't you go for a run? It will make you feel better. But you said it perfectly before. Don't do something if you don't enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, there's no point putting yourself through that hell, which is, I think, the first step. But I also want to add to that and say, take the time out for yourself to find what works for you and explore, try new things. But I strongly believe, because food's been a big part of my life probably in the last 6 years, that whatever I put into my body helps me with sleeping, helps me with memory. It helps me with my physical, you know, my overall body composition, my weight, how I'm performing day in and day out, how I'm actually performing in the gym. It all comes back to how my mind is, but also what I'm putting in my body, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm a massive advocate of that, a big advocate of it. But a lot of people, it blows my mind time and time again. I hear people going, I've been training my ass off, or I've been at the gym and I'm doing all this. But then straight after it, you see them smashing pizzas and eating In-N-Out burgers or McDonald's. And it's just like, I don't get it. And I'm all about a balance. Well, I'm going to take that back. I feel, I don't think there is a balance in like, I don't know. Everyone's got their own interpretation of it. I don't have a balance because I'm either all in or I'm not in. And I feel if you're in balance, you're not putting as much into something where you should be, for example. I think that's my interpretation of it. But I'm not saying you can't go and have cheat meals and do all this and that, but where do you draw the line?
I mean, I think I am, and I know what you're saying, Sammy. I'm a big thing on this whole balance, and this, I think it's your personality. You know, again, this is why we're all different, right? And this is why it's great to have this discussion, because you might have a certain view on it, and I might be able to say right in the next 2 seconds, like I could probably shape your view and make you just think a little bit differently and be like, do you know what? Actually, that is actually doable. Again, it depends on your personality. If you're all in, you know, you're kind of all like, right, if I'm going to go, as they say, and I hate the word term because it's bullshit, clean eating doesn't exist. What, you're going to scrub your carrots? Like, that's clean eating, right? Scrubbing your food. Clean eating does not exist. It comes down to, can you enjoy? I think we should all enjoy nice food, you know, and that, whether that's a nice nutritious salad or a greasy, dirty burger. I absolutely love, you know, a dirty burger. The difference is I'm not going to feel guilty after I've had my burger and be like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. And you start kind of like having a go at your head, and you're like, why did I do that? That wasn't good. Like, enjoy it. You've worked hard 90% of the time. If you have worked hard, obviously this is where it comes back to the balance. Have you worked hard beforehand? Do you kind of, you know, warrant that burger? Have you worked hard enough, if your goal is weight loss, to enjoy that? And if you haven't, then, you know, be sensible. Don't go all the way. But then again, mate, you can eat fast food, and you can actually do it. You can eat 1,000 calorie fast food meal. You can eat a 2,500 calorie fast food meal. There's a way you can do it without absolutely blowing the wheels off. And that's the way I kind of look at it. You know, I would look at having a cheat meal. If I'm going to have a cheat meal, I probably wouldn't go completely crazy, because I just don't feel great after it. It's nothing about, oh, come on, mate, if you're going to have a cheat meal, have a cheat meal. I just don't feel great smashing it big time and then going, oh, that wasn't good.
Yeah, you sort of feel it's almost like a bit of food guilt or something after it, because I guess, I don't know if it's so much food guilt. I think it's when you realize that your body works like an engine and you're putting fuel in it, and then you go and dump bad fuel in it, fuel that's probably not supposed to be in there. I know for me, it doesn't feel right. My body doesn't operate correctly. You know, I get a sore stomach. I'm in the restroom, and you know, I'm complaining, and then it takes me a while to feel clear and clarity again. So, I mean, each person's to their own. I'm not saying you can and you should and shouldn't do this and that. But I think it all comes down to, if we're looking at fitness on an overall scale or a spectrum, it consists of what you're saying, and what I also believe in and I agree with, is mind, food, exercise.
Mate, 100%. And if I can explain this even more simply, use the term, you know, JERF, JERF, just eat real food, and you literally cannot go wrong. Like, eat colorful vegetables, green leafy vegetables, lean protein, good source of fat, and you literally can't go wrong. And this is, it might be, I don't know if this is going off topic a little bit, but I think it's quite important to just chat over it quickly, because there's so many diets out there or styles of eating, and people might be thinking like, what's the right one? Again, personal preference. Does it work for you? Can you sustain it long term? Are you getting results? If you cover those three things, then you're going to win every single time. You know, don't eat a vegan diet if you don't like eating a vegan diet. If you love it and it's good for you and you can sustain it and you're getting results, go for your life. You're not hurting anyone. The problem comes when you try and do a diet that you haven't obviously researched, that doesn't fit your body type, or you're not performing on that diet. You have to understand that we're all very unique. We're all very different. We're all going to work on different diets. This is my personal view. If anyone wants to know, this is a Mediterranean diet for me, works every time. So
what's that consist of, mate?
So lean protein, lots of leafy, green, colorful vegetables, as I've just said, and, you know, good fats, avocados, olive oils, nuts, because I can sustain it and I love it. And then I can obviously design my recipes as a chef.
I'd love to be in your kitchen every night, mate.
You know, my girlfriend doesn't think the same thing. It's a bit of a mess, but no, it's good. You know, it's good. I find it very difficult. Like, if you some people I know struggle on a vegan diet. They like eating it because they think, oh, it's good, it's ethical. I understand that side, but they're finding it very difficult to, you know, balance out because they're not educated. And I'm not saying you can't get enough protein on the vegan diet. I know that's a huge topic in the fitness industry. You totally can, but you have to do some research into it, and you have to find out ways in which you can do it. You can't just exist off, salads and chickpeas and legumes and that sort of thing. You have to do some more research into how can I, building in things like tofu and that sort of thing, soybeans, like how can you get more nutrition into your body to make it perform optimally? And I think that's the struggle at the moment, where a lot of people just pick and choose these things. Again, social media, mate, the news, articles come out, people go, oh my God, because someone Kardashian's done this diet, I'm going to go and do that. You listen to your body, and you'll win every time.
Yeah, I agree. Amen to that, man. Amen to that. And
yeah,
on that as well, man, I mean, fitness, food, it's a big part of this conversation. I think we could talk about it for days on end. I'm a pescatarian. You're on the Mediterranean diet. You're a chef. I'd love to be in your kitchen, as I said, and you said it's kind of messy. Your girlfriend doesn't really like it. Let's rewind. You've been in the kitchen since you were 13. You said earlier. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually started everyone's, when people talk about being a pop star, they're like, oh, I was singing when I was 2 years old. But I was standing helping my mum on like a tiny, tiny kitchen stall at about 6. And I used to help her prepare the vegetables and do roast dinners. Sunday night in our house was always about family roast dinners. But we went the whole hog, roast chicken, everything. We kind of went all in, and it was great. So I kind of really love to help mum. She's an amazing cook. And then I got inspired about, wanting to learn more. Like I said to you before, I went into a pub, started scrubbing potatoes, and then found my love for cooking. And I actually, interestingly, at the time, I wasn't sure. My dream was to actually go and work on the super yachts and be a deckhand, and then work up and actually work. I don't know, I had this fascination with, it wasn't the rich and famous, it was just the lifestyle. I wanted to be able to serve good food and look after them. I think looking after people is one of my biggest things that I love. I love doing a dinner party. I love taking people through this kind of like, not experience, journey, but experience. Yeah, 100%.
So if there's a party on, you're the man that puts on the party, and you love the experience of making the food, making sure everyone's having a good time, and they're getting fed amazing
100%. Yeah, I love it. I love them walking in, and just because I love the way food makes people feel. I love the way, you get a good group of mates together, you're all chatting, you talk about recipes, you talk about what's going on, you talk about whatever. But the one thing that it always does, it brings people together. And I love that, community vibe that the food brings to people.
There really is a community in and around food, isn't there?
Mate, massively.
It's part of everyone's life. We go for dinner, lunches, breakfast, everything else in between. I mean,
yeah,
a big part of conversation for a lot of people.
Well, you know what it's like, Sammy, in Australia. I don't know if it's the same I know brunch is a big thing in the US, but in Australia, breakfast is pretty much the meal, right? So
the breakfast here isn't as good, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's just, there's nothing better on the weekend, on a Sunday particularly, meeting up with a couple of mates, 9:30, being in the ocean for a swim, and then you come and you get stuck into a massive, massive breakfast and good coffee. It's just a great feeling. And I think it's very important to appreciate food, good and bad food. Again, not labeling, but it's an essential part of just a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, mate, it really is a healthy lifestyle, healthy relationships, and it's a good way of life. I guess it's what it all comes down to, what you're putting in your body. But you hit the nail on the head earlier. Everyone's on their own journey, each is to their own, and I'm a big believer that people need to find what works for them, and take the patience and give yourself the permission and time to be able to navigate those waters instead of rushing in head first and sort of not knowing what you're doing, because sometimes that can be harmful.
And mate, you've seen it. You've done really well. Like I've been, I always watch your Instagram stories, and you're either at the leg press or you're doing some dumbbell work, but then you're also looking after your body with home cooked food and stuff. And I just think that to me is so great to see people, passionate about looking after their body, because what I've realized from stuff that happened to my dad, not taking health as a as a priority. You abuse it for 1 second, it's too late, you can't get it back. That's when it becomes an issue. And I think having a bit of a scare sometimes, I don't mean what's the word? Sometimes it's quite good to just maybe get a small injury or something, and just to think, if you've ever twisted your ankle and you've had your leg up for a couple of days, and you're like, I just want to get out and exercise. It's that kind of wake up call, or you hurt your back, and you're like, my God, I'm never gonna not move again, because that feeling of not being able to move is the most frustrating thing in the world. And someone said this to me the other day. They were asking about this marathon run that I did, and I missed my time that I was trying to get. And I was so pissed off for about 3 days afterwards. And then I was just like, Rich, like, saw your head out. Like, there's people out there that can't run, and I've just run in a New York Marathon. Like, where's you know what I mean? Like, just understand that you're so lucky to be able to do that because you've got your health. So be a bit more appreciative of that and just enjoy the experience. It took a while for that to sink in, but it was, where I'm thinking at the moment. So,
and you don't mind me asking, obviously, your old man, your dad, was a big motivation in your life, big inspiration for you and your journey and what you're on now. Can we talk a little bit more about that and the role your dad played in your life, mate, growing up?
Mate, 100%. So my dad was, he passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. And up until I think he passed away when I was about 20, I don't know, do the maths, 27. Yeah, 26. Anyway, he was a TV director, really successful TV director, did all the English soaps. Anyone out there in the UK is listening, EastEnders, Coronation Street, quite well respected in the film and television industry. And it was amazing to see how passionate around life he was. He's a real people person. He was the life and soul of the party. Drank a little bit, but you never understood quite how deep it got when he was on his own. But if you just knew him as a mate, you'd be like, oh no, Michael's just, he's just that kind of guy. He's that kind of friendly guy. And then he, as a freelance TV director, you work on kind of 3 or 4 month projects. And then in that project, might be working on the next one in the horizon. Then, you kind of rotate. So you're not in a full-time role of anything. So it's not a secure job, as it were, but you get paid well for when you're in that time slot. And it just happened that there were nothing was coming on the horizon. So Dad got very stressed. And to this day, I think it was because he didn't have an out. Work was his all-consuming thing. Loved the family. Got my mum and my sister, quite a small family, and that was it. It was all work. So when he wasn't working, he was drinking. And that lifestyle of TV is very kind of, you're always on, but when you're off, there's nothing. You get very, very high, and then you get very, very low. He was working away a lot, on locations and filming, and always the first one in the door, last one out. So it's a very high stress, high pressure job, and the alcohol just consumed him, and it got really bad to the point where Mum and Dad split up. And this always sounds bad that you think they split up and she wasn't going to help him, but this was 4 years into it. It had gone through so many different cycles of trying to help him, and he'd been to the Priory, which is quite a well-known rehab place in Brighton in the UK, and a lot of people go there for, a lot of quite well-known celebrities go there to try and help with drug addiction and drink and all that sort of stuff. So it's obviously ridiculously expensive to get in there. So we weren't, well off people at all, but we got some help to try and get him in there, because we're like, look, this is the last resort. We need to get him some help. That didn't work. He kept on relapsing, just in and out, in and out. You take 2 steps forward, 4 steps back all the time. And I was living in Edinburgh at the time, in Scotland, and it was very difficult I'd come down and see him on a weekend, and Dad wasn't in a good place, and you'd sit down with him for 4 or 5 hours and just talk about everything and try and get him to this place where he's ready to feel better about himself. And then you leave thinking, oh my God, I've got somewhere. And then a day later, I get a phone call from Mum. Dad's not good again. It's just so soul destroying, man, because you yourself are having to take these burdens, and because you're not there, you feel awful about it. And then eventually I remember Mum saying, about 2 years before he died, I was in Australia, and she said to me, he's really not good. She said to me, Rich, I'm just worried one of these days he's not going to be here. And that was the first time I thought, shit, this is actually really bad. This has gone from an addiction that might change him, his personality, and people around him, to Jesus Christ, this is going to take his life. And then I got a phone call. I always remember I was on the way to go and train a client in Avalon, a really close friend of mine, and I got a phone call from my mum and said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm just on the way up to train." And she said, "Dad's died." And I was like, it was just and in that moment, I know everyone says it, in that moment, everything changed. You know, you're just like, "Oh my God, this is real." Everyone's lost someone close to them, I'm sure. But when you lose someone that close, your father, who has been, you know, someone you look up to for the last 20 years of your life, it was brutal. I was so angry because to me, it was all self-inflicted. You know, I think something could have been done about it. And we tried so hard, but he just wasn't willing to change, man. And it was, oh man, it's massively, it affected me for a good couple of years. But the one thing that I can see on the positive side of it now, and this is why I got into the industry and why I'm so passionate now about helping people, is your health is the number one most important thing you can do. And if you can look at anything, you know, if you can just realize, just evaluate your life and go, am I drinking a little bit too much? Am I doing something that's not a great habit at the moment? Because it can lead to something more. And, you know, I've seen it firsthand. It destroyed my family. It destroyed mum and dad's marriage. It destroyed his life. He took his, you know, he didn't commit suicide, but he passed away from a internal bleeding in his liver. It was a shit time, but, you know, it happened, and you've got to kind of move on.
I'm very sorry to hear about that, man. I mean, yeah, the impact that would have had on obviously yourself and your mum at the time, and obviously till this day, no doubt, would be a big part of the legacy that you're trying to leave and the work that you're trying to do moving forward.
Yeah, I think it really is, you know, it is all for him, mate, to be honest. Now it's just, I've always wanted to make him proud, and I am who I am today, and everyone can say that. You know, you are from your parents. You shape the person you are today is because of the important people in your life. And Dad's taught me so many good things. And I've never really, there was a time I probably got really pissed off with him towards the end, because I could see the damage he was doing. But then when he passed away, it was just this whole kind of, after the anger had gone after a couple of months, it was then just like, do you know what? Remember the good times. I'm here because of him. I'm a better person now because of him, and I want to make him proud. And again, going back to that thing that I first talked about right at the start, if I can give back and make people's lives better, it's all because of him. You know, he's made me this person. So I've just, you know, again, your health, I've got this gift of being here and being able to inspire people and help people. I want to just capitalize on that and just bring it in, you know.
And mate, no doubt you are definitely making your old man proud. You're making a lot of people around you proud. You're inspiring people through what you put in your body, your training regimes, the advice that you're putting out, and the love that you're putting out to the world. So don't ever underestimate that, brother. And that's very important. And yeah, while you can't go back in time and change things, none of us can, you know. But what we can do is we can use the information that we've got right now in front of us and do our very best to change and to make a change and to inspire change. And I think you're doing a tremendous job at that.
Oh, thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. And again, you know, this is what I learned from you about losing your close mate. And I remember seeing you for the first time actually publicly speak in a little Bondi bowling club, and it was just great to hear the story behind it and why you were doing it. And what you realize is so many people, because you threw a question out to the audience and you're like, has anyone been there? And mate, like 15 people put their hand up. Like I think it's just so much more common than people think. And this is why I think living, you know, the whole "it ain't weak to speak" thing, you know, the year after I lost my dad, everyone was, I'm one of these people that's very, leave me alone and I'll
deal with it.
I'll be ready to talk about it when I'm ready, and I will talk about it. But I'm not one of these people, if you say to me, right, Rich, sit down, how's everything going? And I know that works for some people, but for me, and again, this goes back to the whole thing I said right from the start, you know, everyone's different. So I think we've got to just approach everyone differently. But
you certainly can't make someone to speak.
No, 100%. But the one thing that I think everyone can really get better is talk, mate. Speaking, talking is the most important thing I think, you know, we can do. And whether or not it's on the phone, whether it's through video call, whether it's face to face, Jesus Christ, please guys, just talk to someone, because we've all heard these stories where people, you know, do things that if they'd have had the support, I think they would have thought differently. And my biggest thing about, it sounds a bit morbid, this topic, but funerals, we always talk about people after they've gone in such an amazing way. And I guarantee if you'd had that same speech and they could sit there in like a presentation and watch what people are saying about them, it would make them think twice about doing the actions they're about to take in order to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
definitely.
Definitely.
If they were to see how much love and support people have for them, it's a powerful thing, man. And I think if we can give that love in little bits, we don't have to do it in this presentation or sit people down and talk to them. We can just be there for them and just talk to them. And that's all it takes sometimes,
Yeah. And kindness, mate. I think
Massively.
understanding, listen, compassion, empathy, all those sort of good things. And I think it comes with time, it comes with training, it comes with education as well. And I think, you just got to keep moving forward as much as, I'm sure straight after your dad passed away, you said you were angry and, you were angry for quite some time. And I'm sure you would have had your own problems and your own dramas and your own struggles. And you probably internalized a lot of them, and you spoke up when it was, the right time for you and when you felt most comfortable to do that. You can't make someone speak up. And you and I both know it ain't weak to speak, but even then, we might know that it's fine to speak and we will speak, but it might not be right now.
Mate, 100%. There's no rule book. There's information out there that can help you, but again, it all comes back down to this whole thing of you have to take control of it, and you have to lead it. You have to want to do it. You have to, you can have all this information thrown at you and it can get overwhelming. You can look at all these inspiring Goalcast, social media pages, and you can see all these people talking about all this stuff, but it has to resonate with you.
Yeah.
And I think once you get that message across to someone and it really gets you, that's when you're going to be like, do you know what, this person gets me. And I think sometimes you can almost follow too many people. I know a lot of very successful entrepreneurs do talk about, don't follow too many people that are similar but have different messages, you know what I mean? Because you're going to get different messages. So try and follow someone that you really resonate with, go all in on that person, and just, get the information you need from them rather than getting it from 10 or 15 different people that are trying to motivate you. It's just going to be pulling you left, right, and it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just about being good with your time as well, and being mindful of the information that you're taking in. But also it does come down to, ultimately the responsibility is with us. We have to be the ones that physically get up out of our chair and make that decision to go to the grocery store and grab, the right foods, or we have to make that responsibility to put our hands up if we're struggling or if we're angry and saying, now's the right time to speak. But it's also great to socialize with the right people as well, because I feel, even as a good friend, say for me, for you, is I feel it would be my responsibility to be able to check up on my good friends as well, and to inspire them to know that they aren't alone, for example, or if they are having a bad time, that they can speak up. So I used to actually think it was 100% up to me. So if I was struggling, Sam Webb, when I was struggling, it's up to me to get better, right? I used to think it was just up to the person who was struggling. It's up to them to pull themselves out of their rabbit hole. Yeah, we've got great supports around us, but I also now think that it's also the responsibility, and there's part of a responsibility that falls on the people that you spend your time with. Because if they're educated and you've been open and honest with them, they also should be somewhat responsible about, ensuring that you're home on time, or you're doing the right things physically and mentally. And, if I haven't heard from you in a month, to check in on you and things like that. I really do believe that is a big part to play in this phase.
Mate, definitely. And I know you're big on this, and it's, looking after yourself obviously is paramount first. But for me, it's having, I would rather have a group of 8 mates that are super close than 35 people that, great, you've got numbers, but no one really knows, your personality. No one knows what makes you tick. No one knows what, when you're down, you're down. And I think it's going all in on those 8 people and just spending quality time with those people. I'm going through a similar situation at the moment where my best mate back at home, he's in this kind of rut at the moment where he's seeing a lot of people get engaged, new jobs, buying flats, and he's just seems to be on this kind of treadmill of just hasn't really stopped doing what he did when he was 19, 20, 21. And I think it's he's now realizing, you know, life's gone on and he's still maybe not moved from one base, and he's kind of, you know, not being left behind in a way, but probably shouldn't be where he is at the moment, and thinks he should be further along. And I'm very aware of this, and it's you know, me and my other mate are very aware and making time to reach out to him. It's obviously difficult being so far away, but he's been great to go down and see him and talk to him, because, you know, I'm scared shitless that one day, you know, similar situations are going to happen to your close mate. You know, I just don't want anyone to do anything stupid. And you know, you've always said to me, you'll never, you know, you want to reach out to prevent this stuff from happening. And just by asking people that whole thing, are you okay? You know, it's so important.
And checking in with people as well, and being honest.
Massively.
I think it definitely comes down to being honest. But Richie, you know what I did miss, and I really want to ask you about, because I want to know what actually went on. Mate, you spent some time in the Buckingham Palace. Is this
I didn't
real?
break in.
Did you break in? What happened, mate? How did you do that? I understand you're very passionate and you're very, very, very skilled at what you do, but you're in Windsor, right. You're in Buckingham Palace. What on earth were you doing?
Okay, so what happened was, I'll talk you through it. So I've talked to you about my chefing background. I went to college. I talked to you about how I wanted to become a butler or a front of house.
You didn't tell me you wanted to be working alongside the Queen.
No. This all happened, mate. So I talked about how I wanted to work with the super yachts and serve people front of house. So I had to get both sides of my, you know, qualification of actual silver service. And now you think that's like an old school thing that people used to do in the kind of, you know, 1800s, but I'm talking full on. Like, there are courses out there that you do with training, and it's big, you know, it's huge, where you can become a chef and you can also do a butler qualification as well. So you're there on, I don't remember what the course is called. Anyway, 2.5 years. It's a long thing. And then from college, we had a connection that took us up to Buckingham Palace to do some functions, you know, royal state visits. And then the more and more we did, the more trusted we got. And then we would actually do full on, you know, talking like politicians, you know, presidents of the United States. George Bush was there for some of these events. And we'd be serving them, which sounds absolutely crazy and super surreal. It was at the time. But 3 or 4 visits in, you're just like, this is the norm. You know, you're standing there and you're like, oh, there's George Bush over there. There's Tony Blair at the time. It was always a while ago, but mate, it's incredible. And then, like I said, the more and more we did, the more and more kind of, I suppose, high caliber events we'd go to. And then I was lucky enough to do Charles and Camilla's wedding at Windsor Castle. Yeah. So yeah. So we'd be there.
What did you do? Like, what you were serving, mate, food, making it, or
yeah.
what?
So what happens is, imagine in Buckingham Palace, you've got this huge table. So it goes. There's 2 huge long tables at the top, and then there's this like a bit like a shoehorn or like a U-shaped table. Yeah.
But how many people on these long tables?
Oh, mate, 100 people each side.
Yeah. Wow.
So massive, you know, 80-meter table, like huge. And then you've got people on the inside as well. So our role would start, we'd get in there and we'd have to make sure, you know, you put your placemats down, and then you'd put your wine glass here, and then you'd have like this kind of ruler to make sure that the plate wasn't any more than 10 centimeters away from the glass. And when you moved, you know, to make sure everything's lined up. So when you look down the table, it is just arrow straight. We're talking like next level kind of service, you know. But then at the top of the table, that top bit was where the royalty would sit, or the guests of honor. So that would be your presidents, you know, your heads of state, the Queen, and then they have the 2 big beef-eater guys. You know those guys you see with the big collars and the big spears? Mm-hmm. They would stand at each end.
Well, they really, is it really like, are they as big as they look on TV?
It's almost like, what's your CV? Okay, you're 6'5". Yeah, you're good for this. You could, it's mad. Like, they are just big guys, and then they hold these spears. But so you can't get close to that top end table. Oh my God. You have to just but this is the level of service. So we'd have 1, 2, 3. We'd have 4 butlers, 1 person in charge of wine, 1 person in charge of the food, 1 person in charge of taking the food to the table, and then 1 person in charge of taking the food away from the table, for every 8 or 10 guests. So can you imagine the level of service? Like you're 4 to 10, right? It's ridiculous. And just the most amazing thing, mate. Like the most amazing experience. Like
Were
I
you
said
nervous?
to you, the first couple I did were very, very nervous. You know, you're holding these huge, they call them big silver salvers, big silver trays. And that thing weighs probably 5 or 6 kilos on its own, like sterling silver, solid. And it's probably been in the family since like the 1600s or whatever. We've all got these big silver salvers. We've got like 6 glasses of champagne. We've got some whiskeys. We've got some orange juice. We've got some sparkling water, all like crystal cut glass. And I'm standing there and I'm in a penguin suit, like a full on penguin suit with, you know, the tails and the cuff button top, white gloves. And I'm standing there with my hand behind my back. And I'm literally just waiting for people to take drinks off my side. And then you'll see royalty come past. But you know, you're after about 10 minutes, your arm starts to shake and you can hear the glasses banging against each other. And you're just thinking to myself, Jesus, please do not let this break. Like, do not let me be the person that completely cleans a salver across Buckingham Palace. Like, can you imagine? So, yeah, mate, we did. I would have done probably 12, 15 events. Like it was.
That would have been a great experience for you.
Oh, mate, it was amazing. And I mentioned this to you before we started this chat, like Dad always said to me, between 15 and 19, you could write a book on what you've done so far, because there's not many kids at that age. You know, one of my most memorable experiences, mate, was actually working. So basically through this Buckingham Palace experience, I then got some quite cool jobs because of, I had that on my CV, right? It was just really, you know, great to see that. So I worked at the British Embassy in Paris for about 3 months. So I was serving the British ambassador in Paris. So there was 3 butlers, and we would do everything. We'd spit shine his shoes.
They put you up for accommodation?
So we lived, yeah. So we lived right at the top, in the middle of Paris, in the butlers' quarters at the top.
Were they nice?
And mate, like amazing. Like all our food paid for. Like
Wow.
it was just insane. And then I worked for a owner of a stud farm, so racing horses in Cambridge. He was a multi-millionaire. He used to own, I think he had shares in Toblerone or something like that. It was crazy. And then that's the butler lifestyle. You know, you have these live-in people that look after, they're very wealthy, they're very successful, but then you have to deliver this whole high-end service. And I think that's what comes back to everything that I do now. Is just being able to deliver that service to people and understand people, because you realize that, yes, they might have a lot of money. Yes, they might be very important, but people are people.
People are people, man.
Yeah. And that communication thing for me I learned a lot from how to deal with different people in different high-end situations, but it brings back to everything I do today. You know, it's like, don't forget that whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you're successful, whether you're, you know, young, it doesn't matter. You treat everyone exactly the same. And my dad always said to me was just like, just treat people like you want to be treated. And that stuck with me from day one. And that's what I try and kind of push across to people I'm working with. You know?
I love that because, mate, people are people. Very true. And everyone's on the same playing ground. No one's success or fame or wealth makes them any more worthy than someone that doesn't have that either, you know? Exactly. So it's a very, very important point, mate, that you touched on. And speaking of this book that you want to write, mate, have you written one or are you writing one? Where are you at right now? What's going on in your life at the moment, Richie? Where are you at?
So I'm when's this going out? Do we know yet?
Mate, we don't. I'm gonna this part, we'll cut this part, but yeah, we'll
no, I'm gonna do I'm basically working on a cookbook, and I'm fine, mate. I'm fine for this to go on. I'm working on a cookbook based all around time, so simplifying, taking time out of the equation, simple recipes for the busy lifestyle, and using my background, like I said, as a chef. And I think it's quite important to just for me to get out to people that there's a lot of people in the fitness industry that do design recipes, and whereas they might be, you know, it's food, but is it palatable food? Does it work with your lifestyle? Can you sustain it? You know, my idea of absolute hell, and it might work for some people, I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but when you see 7 or 8 plastic containers and you see breakfast, lunch, dinner for the same meal every single day, for till Sunday. You know, you do your meal prep. I'm all for meal prep. I'm all for simplifying the approach to nutrition. That is my kind of motto. But I don't believe you have to eat like a robot in order to get results. So that's my big thing, is trying to take the stress and the worry out of cooking, make it tasty, and just make it enjoyable. Because like I said, that whole thing about food and community, it has to kind of all come into your life. It has to work with your lifestyle. So that's what I'm trying to work on at the moment. And it's good.
Sounds exciting, man. I think a lot of people will love that, and something that's easy, simple, easy to read, helps with time, easy to digest. I think that sounds like a great success, mate. And how can people follow you right now? If someone wants to follow you or check,
yeah. So
someone wants to follow you, if someone wants to follow you, Richie, or if they want to hunt you down, where can they find you?
Hunt me down. Well, if you want to come and see me personally, it'd be fantastic. So I'm on Manly Beach, in Sydney, Australia. And if you're ever dropping by, guys, anyone of you, like, I'm one of these people. I don't know about you, Sammy, but I'm one of these people that the power of, again, social media. If you message someone and say, "Hey, Rich, I'd love to come and do a little session with you." I mean, I've come from LA and I'm only here for 2 days, but I'll be in Manly for an hour. Like, Jesus, the worst I can say is no. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how connections are going to be formed. And I'd love it if more people just were, what's the worst that can happen? I'm just going to reach out to this guy. We could have a 30-minute training session. It could be a relationship that for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of cool, that sort of stuff. So I'm all about that.
Don't be scared of getting no's for an answer, guys. You heard that? Richie has told you, do not be scared to reach out and ask, because the worst thing that you can get is a no. And there's no harm in getting no's. Trust me.
Exactly. And also, so my social media is Richard Kerrigan _. My website is rkthebeachlife.com.au. I'm going to make a few changes on that with the book and stuff, so that will be changing. But guys, reach out. And like I said, I'm all about, my goal for 2020 is all about giving back. So I'm happy to help anyone that needs to reach out and push the message out there.
Well, I can say right now, Richie, you are giving back. Short time frame that I've known you for, I know that the type of guy you are. You put off a great energy in the world. You're doing really, really cool stuff. I appreciate you taking the time out today to spend with me on the It Ain't Weak to Speak podcast. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your understanding, and very much appreciate you sharing some of your heartfelt stories with us too, mate. I really appreciate it.
Sammy, just for the social, let's get a little inspiring message from you for my followers.
Yeah. What do you want me to say?
Whatever. What's going to help someone? What number one thing that you take away from getting someone to be a better person?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Say that again. Hang on. Give me 5. give me a second. Okay. So talk to me. What do you want?
Right. Number one thing that you would say to someone to just become a better person.
I guess the best thing I could say if you want to become a better person is you're not competing against anyone else but yourself. Challenge yourself each and every single day to do something new or exciting that challenges you, puts you outside of your comfort zone. That's probably about it.
Love it, mate.
I hope that was all right, mate. I hope that was all right. But we'll wrap up the show now, Richie. I appreciate you taking the time on here with me. You've definitely shared a lot of knowledge and new information, even with myself, that we'll be able to share, no doubt. I'll keep you well and truly across everything on this end. But in the meantime, brother, peace out. Take care. Look after yourself.
Thanks, Sammy. Take care, guys.
And keep cooking.
I will do, buddy. I will do.